All right, guys, it's that time yet again for my top 10 favorite pieces of backpacking gear from the past year. Technically, we still have about a month left of 2024, and I have a couple trips left for this year, but I'm pretty sure that I have everything that I need, and I don't plan on getting any new gear. I don't plan on it. This video has definitely become a staple here on my channel over the years, but this year's list is gonna be quite a bit different versus my favorite backpacking gear list of the past. Simply because for years I was doing some very ultralight thru hiking. So all of my gear needed to be minimal, no bells and whistles, ultralight to work day in, day out in the field. But in 2024, I definitely tried to expand my horizons and just do some different stuff. I got into winter backpacking, mountaineering, trekking in other countries, and got into some various new activities in the backcountry. So because of that, I've used a lot of different stuff in the field this year. And honestly, I think some of the pieces of gear in this list this year are gonna surprise most people. But out of everything that I've used, this stuff has definitely become my favorite. So without further ado, number 10 is a piece of gear that's probably gonna shock most of you, because I bet that most people out there don't even think that I own a pair of them, and that is a pair of hiking pants, specifically the Norona Falcon Flex 1. Yes, hiking pants from the guy who has become known as the short shorts hiker. You know, over 10 years, I've always preferred hiking in running shorts, and I still do for certain trips. But over the last year, getting into mountaineering, getting into winter backpacking, I've needed to have a little more coverage so I can be more comfortable in the environments that I'm in. So I've started trying out different hiking pants. And out of all the different hiking pants that I've tried, the Norona Falcon Flex have become my absolute favorite. For one simple reason, that they actually fit me. What I found with most technical hiking apparel is it's not really made for slender, long-legged guys like myself, and Norona tends to make some longer cut stuff. And these pants specifically are still very ultralight for a pair of trekking pants. They have this nice like Velcro adjustment on both sides instead of a belt, which I really like because I don't have a belt digging into me while I'm hiking during the day. And they have a lot of different zipper vents down the side. So if I'm hiking and I start getting hot, I can open up those vents and I can vent myself so I'm not overheating. And they even have a little bitty hook on the bottom so I can use them sort of like gaiters, hooking them to my boot or my shoe if I'm hiking in something like deep snow. You're probably gonna see me wearing a lot more pants going into 2025 because of the stuff that I'm doing. So because again, these things have changed the game and how I think about the apparel that I'm wearing in the backcountry. The Norona Falcon Flex 1s make my list for 2024. Number 9 is a piece of gear that's made by a company that always seems to make my list ever since I started doing these videos in 2017, and this year is no exception. That company is Canuck, and the product is the new Canuck Hydrium water flask. I actually started developing a pack called the Mallory, which is more of a fast pack. It has 2 water bottle pockets up here, so I wanted some smaller water storage up on my front so I could easily grab stuff and easily drink. So I picked up 2 of these. I have one that's here that typically has my Be Free filter in there, so I can just grab water, I can filter it, I can have it there. And then another one that actually has an adaptable straw top on there. So I have the 2 bottles here, I can easily take a drink, I can grab there. So again, these things have just kind of upped my hydration game in the backcountry yet again with the different stuff that I've been doing. So because of that, because I just think that Canuck always makes super solid products, that nice rubberized plastic to where they don't leak, they don't get holes. The new Canuck Hydrium 500 milliliter bottle definitely makes my list of favorite gear of the year. Number 8 is one that has saved me quite a bit of money over the last year in my backpacking excursions, especially when it comes to fuel, and that is the Flip Fuel. This little device that allows me to take all of these partially used cans and drain them into each other. So it's a fuel transfer device. It simply works by taking one can and getting it cold in like a freezer, taking the other can and having it at room temp, attaching one to one side, another to another side, and being able to drain those 3/4 used cans into one can, filling it up. So it saves on money, it saves on space, and it doesn't create as much waste. If you're like me and you probably got either a box or a shelf in your gear room that just has a ton of these cans that only have about 1/4 amount of fuel, When I go out on a new backpacking trip, I want a can of fuel, and odds are I'm not just gonna grab this because I'm not sure how long this is gonna last, so I always grab a new one of these cans. Well, I stopped doing that, and instead I buy the larger gas cans that are much cheaper than buying a bunch of these, and whenever I'm ready to go out on a trip, I simply use this to transfer the gas from the big cans to a small can, and boom, I'm ready to go. So because this has saved me money, because it uses way less, creates way less waste, and it's starting to save room on my shelf. I actually need to get these cans transferred. The Flip Fuel definitely makes my list of favorite gear of the year. Number 7 is a piece of gear that I'm gonna be pretty biased on because, well, it's made by my gear company. I designed it and developed it, but I've used it a ton over the past year, and it's allowed me to do more and be more comfortable in the backcountry, and that is the new Evolved Supply Co. Space Ranger 50-liter framed backpack. You guys know that typically I like more minimal stripped down packs, something like a 35 to 40 liter frameless, roll top, removable hip belt pack, because typically I'm doing very minimal ultralight kits for my thru hikes. Well, over the last year, again, kind of the theme of this video, I've started to get into more hardcore backcountry adventures, needing to carry more gear. Like in April, when I did a trek through the Himalayas to climb Island Peak, I was carrying close to 40 pounds of gear. Well, I haven't owned a frame pack since like early 2018, so I decided to design and develop one myself. So the Space Ranger is very similar to the pack that I've been using over the past 3 years, the Ranger, so it does have that big mesh outer pocket. It's still a very ultralight fabric pack that has a roll top, a single cinch with a hook, or a removable Y strap that I can attach to it. It has that bottom pocket, and what I always love in any pack, no matter what it is, load lifters, but it is a larger capacity pack. So it's a 50+ liter pack, and it has an internal frame. So it has 2 stays that are removable and a fully padded lumbar pad hip belt that's also removable. So this pack was definitely needed for me this year just because of all the bigger carries that I'm doing. Not only the mountaineering trips, but also some of the deep winter backpacking trips that I've done, not only this year, but some of the ones that I'm gonna be doing over the next 2 months, along with some of the pack rafting trips that I've started getting into. You know, a lot of people have asked me, how am I gonna carry a 5-pound pack raft with something like a 35 to 40 liter pack? Well, I'm not. I'm gonna be using a larger pack that has a better carrying capacity on that. So because this pack is gonna pretty much become my main go-to pack for the next 6 months to a year because of some of the adventures that I'm doing, and because, well, I designed it and developed it, and it's exactly what I wanted. The Evolved Supply Co. Space Ranger definitely makes my list of favorite gear of the year. Number 6 is not really a piece of gear per se, but something that is absolutely needed for me in the backcountry every single morning, and that is an instant coffee. I know, instant coffee's not really coffee. You need a grinder and a pour over and all that stuff. Well, when it comes to coffee, I still try to go as light as I possibly can, and I'm always looking for that perfect cup of instant coffee, something that actually tastes like a fresh ground cup of coffee, and I found it. For the last year, I've been using First Ascent Hero Blend instant coffee. This stuff is phenomenal. The beginning of this year, I did a coffee taste test with my buddy Zach, and this was definitely my favorite out of all the coffees that we tried. Even over the pour over or the AeroPress, I still prefer this stuff. It's a little more expensive than most of your like Cafe Bustelos or your Starbucks Via, but it doesn't have that weird instant coffee chemical taste that you usually get. It actually does taste like a fresh cup of coffee. So I've just absolutely fallen in love with this stuff, and I always make sure that I have packets of this in my pack. So because I can't live without coffee, I still want to go minimal and ultralight when it comes to things like coffee. I don't want all these extra gadgets, and because it tastes like a fresh cup of coffee, the First Ascent Hero Day Blend definitely makes my list of, I guess, favorite gear of the year. Number 5 is something that you guys have heard me talk a ton about over the last year, and it's because I use it religiously to plan all of my backpacking trips and to do all of my routing when I'm in the backcountry, and that is what's become my favorite navigation app, Onyx Backcountry. Onyx Backcountry has totally changed the game for me over the past year when it comes to navigating all of my different backcountry adventures. Where All the other hiking apps that I've used in the past have been great when I'm doing something like a through hike that's a point A to point B. Onyx just is full featured. I can just do more with it. And I've been able to use it on my mountaineering trips, my winter backpacking trips where I can't even see the trail, some trips that I've done in the Grand Canyon where I've routed and planned my own routes, and even on a recent pack rafting trip up in Colorado on the Gunnison River. Not only that, but hiking in the Southwest using features like the active wildfire layer, because I live in the Southwest, fire is a big proponent of backpacking in the Southwest, and things like the weather feature, where I can toggle that on before I even get out on the trail and know exactly what the weather is going to be like before I get out there, so I can plan my kit accordingly. Onyx has become an absolute game changer for me. Onyx has also become an excellent supporter of my channel, allowing me to get out on all these different trips that I've done over 2024. So if you've been interested in getting a powerful backcountry tool, just to give you more confidence, because it's definitely given me more confidence in a lot of the trips that I've been on, you can actually get Onyx Backcountry right now until I think December 3rd for 70% off of a subscription, which is nuts. I think they do that like one time a year, but if you use my link down in the description box and you use code Darwin70BF, you can get 70% off. And I guess before you even do that, you can get a free trial of it. So check that out if you've been actually interested in this thing that I continually talk about. Because Onyx, again, has just helped step up my backcountry game. It's given me more confidence, it's made me feel safer, and it's allowed me to route trips that I had never done before. It definitely makes my list of favorite gear of the year. Number 4 is not your typical piece of backpacking gear, and honestly, most people probably wouldn't consider it backpacking gear, but for me, it has become essential to getting good shots and being able to document my backcountry adventures to share with you guys here on YouTube, and that is my Aoka Carbon Tripod. This thing is awesome. For years, I carried all those small little compact tripods. What was it? The Pedco UltraPod 2, which are great, they work fine, but I always wish that I could have got my shots up higher. So when I do a walk-by shot, I could get a little more in frame. When I'm doing a talking head shot, I could just have it up higher and I wouldn't have to find a rock or something. So having something that is more of a full-size tripod has been essential for me, but I didn't want to carry something like a 3-pound tripod. Well, this little Aoka Carbon Tripod gets up to a pretty tall height. It's not full size, but pretty full size, and it only weighs a pound. So this thing has come with me everywhere over the past like 2, maybe even 3 years in my pack. So because this has just allowed me to get better shots and document my trips better for you guys here on the channel, the Aoka Carbon Tripod that I got off Amazon has definitely become a favorite piece of gear of the year. All right, number 3 is actually a headlamp, but probably not the headlamp that you think that I'm gonna say. Over the last like 4 or 5 years, my all-time favorite headlamp has become the Nitecore NU25, a very minimal, rechargeable headlamp that packs down tiny. It weighs nothing, but it doesn't make my list this year. Instead, what makes the list is a more traditional full-featured headlamp, which is the Petzl Swift RL, where I still love using the Nitecore NU25 for about 80 to 90% of the stuff that I do. Again, over the past year, I've needed more light. I've needed a headlamp that had a longer battery life, that could last better at higher elevations, and that's where the Petzl Swift RL comes into, a more traditional heavy-duty headlamp. Where it's still 100% rechargeable with a USB-C, it also has a feature called reactive lighting. So if I'm doing something like backpacking in the snow or doing a winter climb where I'm going up a peak and I'm on snow and ice, the light beam on this actually adjusts to what I'm staring at. So if I'm staring out into the darkness, I have all the lumens that I need. But if I quickly look down onto ice or snow, it actually adjusts the beam so the light doesn't hit the snow, come back and blind me. I used this in April on my climb of Island Peak, and I started my climb at 1 a.m. So I needed a headlamp for a very long time at high elevation, and having that reactive lighting to no matter where I was looking at, whether it was the snow or the darkness or rock or ice, and it adjusted to what I needed to look at. That's why this thing has become a favorite piece of gear this year, and something that I'll probably use more on winter backpacking trips, maybe some of my pack rafting trips, and even some canyoneering. So because again, this piece of gear has allowed me just to do more in the backcountry. It makes my list of favorite gear for the year. Number 2 is a backpacking gear gadget that is totally unnecessary. And to be 100% honest with you, I never thought would make a favorite gear list, but it has helped save my lungs in some of the certain environments that I've been in over the past year, and that is this little FlexTail Zero pump. I've always made fun of these pumps in the backcountry. I don't even use a pump sack. Typically, I just use my lungs to blow up my inflatable pads, but in some of the environments that I've been in over the last year, in very cold temps, at high elevations, where it's a little harder to breathe and I want to conserve energy, this thing has been a lifesaver. And it's just been great to not have to put out extra energy to blow that pad up when I'm in those types of conditions. It's super small, it doesn't weigh anything, it doesn't take up like any room in my pack, and it has these different adapters so I can use it with different sleeping pads that I have. This thing has just become a favorite piece of gear over the last year. Again, I would have never thought that a backpacking gear gadget would make my list of the year, but because it has, because it saved my lungs, and because I actually love this little thing, it makes my list of favorite gear for 2024. All right, my number 1 favorite piece of gear of the year is always, usually, a larger piece of gear like a tent or something, and this year is no different. My favorite piece of gear of 2024 is the Z-Packs Free Zip 2-person freestanding tent. Over the last 12 months, I've really gotten into freestanding tents for the first time in like 9 years. I used a freestanding tent on my hike of the Appalachian Trail, and ever since, I've used a lot of trekking pole tents. Well, over the last year, I have sort of gotten away from trekking pole tents because of some of the stuff that I've been doing. The winter backpacking trips, the mountaineering, about to get into some more bike packing trips and pack rafting, and this tent really fits into everything that I've done over the last year. The year previous, 2023, I was using a freestanding tent that they made called the Free Duo. Well, Z-Packs discontinued it because they wanted to make some improvements on it, and I'm glad they did. As you can see, the poles got a lot smaller, so it packs down a lot smaller. It's very ultralight and a ton of room. Out of all the Z-Packs tents that I've ever owned, and I own quite a bit of them, out of all the miles that I put on Z-Packs tents, and as much abuse as I put them through, I think this is my favorite tent that they've ever made, simply because of how much room is inside of it, how light it is, and how strong it is. It's a really strong structure for high winds at higher elevations. So just because, I've been evolving the type of gear that I need to use in the backcountry and wanting a freestanding tent, more of a traditional freestanding tent, but still wanting to keep that ultralight mindset and keep my weight down, this has just been a phenomenal tent for me over the last year, and I cannot wait to use this on a lot more adventures over the next handful of months and going into 2025. So because this thing has been an absolute game changer for me for freestanding tents, because it's ultralight, because it has a ton of room, and because it packs down tiny, the Z-Packs Free Zip definitely makes my list for 2024. All right, guys, there you go. There is my favorite gear over the last year. As I said, it's very different than anything that I've done in the past, simply because 2024 was a year that I just wanted to expand my horizons and do different types of backpacking trips, not just ultralight thru hikes that I've done for so long. And it shows you that backpacking is a constantly evolving thing. We're constantly learning new disciplines and changing the style of backpacking that we're doing out in the backcountry. When I first got into backpacking, I wanted things like a freestanding tent, pants, a heavier duty headlamp. And then I got more into long distance hiking, where being very simplistic and ultralight was the name of the game, so I stripped down quite a bit. And now, moving into, we'll call it more hardcore outdoor excursions, needing things again like pants, like a freestanding tent, like a bigger, heavier headlamp, but still using that ultralight mentality to keep my weight down. We're just constantly evolving as outdoorsmen and as backpackers, and the gear evolves with us. So speaking of that, what's some new gear that you've gotten over the last year that you've added to your kit? What have you evolved in your kit? Have you gotten back to more traditional backpacking, or have you gotten more minimal and more stripped down and more ultralight? Leave me something down below and let me know your thoughts. Guys, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're taking care of yourselves. I hope you're taking care of each other. I love you, and as always, thanks for watching.